Perhaps you've never heard of the Sunset Slayers. Well, they must have had those profilers scratching their heads because these two were not your average serial killers. First, they were a couple. Douglas Clark, who looked like any polyester-clad insurance guy from the 80s, and his girlfriend roommate, Carol Bundy, no relation to Ted. Carol was 5 years older than Doug. She was a nurse and had 2 kids and a bit of a weight problem. Doug was Mr. Ordinary. And Carol, she wasn't winning any beauty contests. So, Doug started bringing hookers home to spice up their romance. But after a while, even that got stale. So Doug flashed on a new idea. Wouldn't it be fun, he suggested to Carol, if he brought home a hooker for a threesome, and while they're all in a tangled knot of flesh and lubricity, he pulled a gun and blew the hooker's brains out. To which a flabbergasted Carol replied,
"Well, I guess we're gonna need a gun."
So Carol hustled right out and bought Doug 2 pistols, and it wasn't long before they put Doug's plan into action. Dougie picked up a couple of sidewalk hostesses on Sunset Boulevard and put a bullet in each of them. Then he decided to saw one of their heads off and bring it home to Carol. A trophy. So he takes the head home and leaves it in the fridge. Then Carol comes home from work, opens the icebox, and sees the head in it. What does she do? Well, she knew her man Doug, and she loved her man Doug. So she took that head out of the Whirlpool frost-free and set it down on the kitchen table and grabbed her makeup kit and got to work. Carol rouged the cheeks and curled the eyelashes, fixed up the smudged mascara, laid on a fresh coat of lip gloss, combed and teased the hair, spritzed it with a little Aquanet, and presto. That severed head was looking mighty sexy for Douglas Daniel Clark. He admired it, thanked Carol for her work, whom he affectionately referred to as Ma. Then he picked the head up off the table, took it into the shower for a good rogering, as my British pals like to say. Doug had met Carol at a local gin mill called the Little Nashville. Some dude named Jack Murray who performed there had dated Carol before Doug. And one night, she was so full of pride about what she and Doug had been up to, she boasted about it to Jack. Jack wasn't as impressed as Carol had hoped, and he mumbled something about going to the police. Ooh, that put Carol in a bit of a panic, so she quickly formed a plan. Next night, she got to work on her own head, as she had on the dead hookers. Got herself painted up to entice, and dressed to kill in her best muumuu. She returned to the Little Nashville, clapped for Jack's country crooning as if he was Elvis. Then she asked him if he'd like to take her out to his van for a little boot knocking. Well, Jack, being all man and smart as a sponge, took her up on her offer. She got busy on Jack. Once she had him in a sexual frenzy, she gut-stabbed him 9 times and once in the ass, and just to be thorough, shot him in the head. Then, of course, she sawed his head off. But she wasn't the tidiest housekeeper. She left a couple shell casings on the floor, along with plenty of Jack's blood, hair, and his headless corpse. Next day at work, something strange came over Carol. She found her conscience. She grabbed a fellow nurse and said,
"I can't take it anymore. I'm supposed to save lives, not take them."
Well, her pal dimed her out, and soon she and Douglas were in the joint. And of course, they rolled on each other. Doug's public defender was a drunk. Fell asleep several times in court, so Dougie represented himself. Carol, she pleaded insanity. Seemed plausible, huh? But then she changed her mind and divulged more grisly details of their murder spree. Carol died of heart failure in jail in 2003. Doug Clark, however, is in his 70s and still going. He is inmate number C6 3000 at San Quentin. You can call him there or write to him. I'm sure he'd love to hear from anyone. So what are you doing for Halloween? Watching your kids trick or treat? Going to a party? Netflix and chill? Maybe a haunted house. Maybe one of those extreme haunted houses. How is all this amped up gore going to affect Halloween mayhem? Will it be a release valve, allowing nuts to get their fill of pretend horror? Or will it be a pump primer, leave thrill seekers with an emptiness that can only be filled by some authentic bloodletting and savagery? There will always be Doug Clarks and Carol Bundys. The FBI figures there are 25 to 50 serial killers operating in the U.S. at all times. Maybe one for every state, maybe one in your neighborhood, school, or workplace. I bet a lot of you right now are thinking, oh yeah, so-and-so is crazy as a shithouse rat. Bet he's got a crawl space full of Cub Scouts. Or maybe, just maybe, someone listening to this is one of those terrible 25 to 50 lethal psychos disappearing people on a regular basis. You just never know who you can turn your back on or take a ride with. But I think most of us do know. I bet all 6 of the hookers Doug and Carol killed had a creepy feeling when they got into his car. But they squelched it. Maybe even dopey Jack Murray did. But he was too horny to care. So wherever you are listening, take a look around once in a while. Take inventory of who is near and how close the exit is. Hey, thanks for hanging with me once again. That bonus episode will drop this week, a look at Civil War 2.0. Many experts say it's coming. How will it be fought? What can you do to prep? Go to thatlarryshow.com. That's thatlarryshow.com. And I'll post pictures there of Doug and Carol, some of their haunts, and some of their victims. It's as creepy as any Halloween movie. And while you're there, click a subscribe button. Stitcher, Apple, Spotify, whatever, so you never miss an episode. If you want to help us keep the lights on and get access to dozens of bonus episodes, signed books, custom recordings, and more, then click that Patreon button. I'll see you in a day or so for Civil War 2.0, and until that time, happy Halloween.